Hello guys, welcome back to our introduction to programming with Python series. So in this tutorial, we're going to go ahead and talk about modules in Python. So in Python, module in Python is just a Python file that contains code that does something specifically. So basically, just a Python file containing code is called a module. Okay. So now we're going to look at modules and I'm going to cover different stuff within modules in Python. So let's jump into it and get started. So I'm going to go into my VS Code, and once I'm inside of my VS Code, I'm going to go ahead and minimize this, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder. I'm going to call it modules, just like that. So I have the modules file created. So instead of a modules folder rather, not file. So instead of the modules folder, I'm going to go ahead and create a file in there. This is going to be part underscore 27, right, dot py. So I have modules file in there. So inside of this file, let's just go ahead and discuss what a module is. So a module is a Python file containing code that performs a specific task, right? So just any Python file is just a module. So this helps us to break our code down into multiple parts. So whenever you're trying to build applications, right, as we'll start building applications soon, after I cover some object-oriented programming concepts, we'll start building web applications. And instead of that, you will notice that we'll have multiple Python files because your applications can get really big, and keeping all of them inside of one file is can be unmaintainable, right? So what we usually do in programming is that we take our code and break it down into different files and then import the different functionality in where we want to use it, basically. So imagine like Facebook, right? Like imagine the source code of Facebook. That's like billions and billions of maybe millions of lines long, right? So imagine having all that inside of one file, like 1 million lines of code inside of one specific file. That would be like ridiculous to manage, right? So but things like that, once you have bigger, your application gets bigger, you break it down into multiple files, and each of these files is called a module. Okay, so let me show you how modules work in Python. So the first thing you need to do is, first of all, you create a file. So let's go ahead and create a file. I'm going to call this one greeting. So this greeting file, greeting, let me just say greeting underscore module.py. So greeting underscore module.py file is just going to consist of a function that's called greeting. And this function, what it simply does is simply just prints out, it takes return none and simply just prints hello world, just like that. So that's how all this function does. So if I call whenever you see the greeting function, just the greeting module, what it simply does is just simply has a function in there called greeting that simply prints out hello world and returns none, right? So good. So let me just go ahead, and how do we use this function now that we have imported? So I also have another file called part27.py. So I'm going to go in there, and I can just import this code in here and use it instead of this other file. So how do you go ahead and import it? Well, there are a couple of different syntax of importing modules or one code from one file to another file in Python. The easiest one is just saying, let's say the easiest one is just say import. I don't know if the easiest for you. Everybody has their own preferences, right? So you can just say import module, just like that. So once you do that, it's going to go inside of this module file and import it. So good. And once you have it imported, you can simply do greeting module dot, and if once say dot, you can see all the functions and variables that will occur within this function. So let me just say I have another variable right here. I have a variable called name, and it's going to be of type str, and it's just going to be greeting module, just like that. So once I have this file, and even if I go in here and just simply do a dot, you can see now I have greeting and name. Previously name wasn't there. So if you just do a dot after import the module and you do a dot, it gives you all the variables and functions that are within that module. So I'm just call the greet function, and once I go ahead and clear the terminal, change directory back, and I'm going to change directory into my modules folder. So once I'm in there, I'm going to just do python 3 and then part27.py and run. You can see we get back hello world. So we are calling this function which is within this file. We are calling it within another file by simply importing it. You go just by importing and then importing a module, and greeting module is the name of that Python file, right? So good, that's how you can import. That's one way of importing. There's another way of importing stuff. It's also called it's also is used a lot. So greeting from greeting, I'm going to go ahead and greeting module import. I can import greeting. I can import even the name variable. So I can simply go in here and simply just call that function directly, and just say greeting. Sorry, you can just call it right here, greeting, right? And simply call that function because you have imported it this way. So if I go ahead and write the code, we should get hello twice because this is from the first for the first way of this is from the first way of importing and calling the function, and the other hello world is from the other one, right? So if I just comment this out and go in here and run the code again, we should get back hello world. So even if I go ahead, I can do print and print out name variable, and if I go here, you can see we get hello greeting module, right, which is the name, right? So good, that's how you can do two different ways of importing modules in Python. So good. So one thing you have noticed after executing my code, I have this folder in here called PyCatch. So what's this folder and what's it used for? So as a programmer, you don't have to worry much about what this file is, and you can even open this file in VS Code. So let me just give you a quick explanation to what this file basically is. So this file basically, we have the PyCatch is a folder containing a Python bytecode, Python 3 bytecode. So what simply does is that whenever you have run your program, Python interpreter compiles the code and stores its bytecode version inside of this file, or inside of this PyCatch, and then inside of the PyCatch, you have a folder which have the same name as your Python module. So you can see you're importing, we have this module right here, right, the greeting module. So in PyCatch folder will have a same name consisting of this module, right, which has, sorry, basically Py folder will have a Python file which has the same name as your Python module file, right, and it's going to store in there the bytecode corresponding to the code that you have defined in here. This makes it easier to run your code and much more faster, right? So you can delete this, and if you want, but basically Python will create it again whenever you run your code again. So if I go ahead and just say delete, right, I'm just going delete. Now you can see it's deleted. If I go and run the code again, so if I go ahead, run my code again, if I go back, you can see now it's Python recreates it. So that's Python just has it there for fast execution of your code. So it just compiles the modules down into a bytecode. So once you call it, it's much faster to execute, right? So one thing you can notice about this bytecode files there is that they have a PyC or a PyO extension. So they have the same name as the module files within your Python file, in within your root directory, basically the root directory from this module folder. It has the same name as them, but the extension is different. They have a py extension or a po extension. So that's basically it. A py extension or a po extension, and this is just a file that consists of bytecode, basically that is created by the Python interpreter. You can delete it anytime you want, and you can also ignore. You can tell Python not to create these files if you want. And also, if you're exporting you're sending your code to someone, the person doesn't need to have access to this compiled bytecode. So you can just delete it, or you can just ignore it if you're using GitHub or something like that. You can just ignore it. You guys, if you don't know what GitHub is, it's fine. But you can ignore it in GitHub, and you can also tell Python not to create this file. So let me just delete it for now, and let me just go back in here and try to write. I can just pass in the B flag, so I can just say -b. And what this simply does is, well, tells Python not to create that folder. So if I run the code again, it works. Now if you go in here, we will not find that folder in there. But if I go ahead and run the code without the B flag, you can see now it's created. So that's how you can ignore, you can tell Python not to create the PyCatch folder, which has the same name, the same files with the same name as files from your root directory, but having the py or po extension, and that consists of bytecode. So if you are using C Python, like we are doing, this is C Python, right? So Python is built on top of the C language, basically. So this is C Python. You don't want to, you don't need that folder. You can simply suppress it by using the B flag, as I told you earlier on. Yeah, so that's basically it for that PyCatch. So if you see that PyCatch folder in your file, in your project, whatever, don't be worried about it. You know what it is. It just consists of bytecode, right? Good. So once we have that done, we can also go. Let me just show you how to also run the modules, import modules, and use them in here in your Python interpreter. So just type in Python 3 and then press enter if you're on Mac and Linux. If you're on Windows, it's just simply Py, right? So I'm on Linux, so I'm going to use Python 3. So press enter, and you can simply go ahead and simply say import. Let me just try to import the greeting underscore module. Let me see, it's gonna work. So we import the greeting module. So I can just say greeting underscore module dot greeting. I think it's called greet, right? So yeah, greeting. So greeting, and I call that function, and you can just say return to me hello. So let's can import even the name, for let's say from greeting underscore module import name, just like that, and I can go ahead and simply say print and name. Yes, you can see greeting module. So that's basically it, how you can even import modules and use them within the Python interpreter. So good. That's basically more about all about modules you need to know. So there are also some built-in modules that Python comes with. We have come across this one of these modules is called the math module, right? So if I just go and say import the math module. So once you import the math module, the math module comes with a lot of functions, variables, and other things we can use. So if I say, for example, I can just go ahead and say, I can just simply say print, right? Print math.py, just like that. So if I say print, if I call this function math.py, is sorry, I'm just exit out. I thought I was running the file, so exit, and then simply do Python 3 and then part 27 and run that. You can see we get the value for pi, right? Because we are printing it out. Okay, and there's the same way you're reading out greeting module.name, like you can say greeting print, and you say greeting underscore module dot name, just like the same thing we have in there. So you can just get the name, and basically this time you're getting the pi. So you can see how these modules, now you at least have a good understanding of how these modules work in the background, right? So this one we can import. You can also import it pi directly. You can just say from math import pi, sorry, pi, just like that. So you can simply go ahead and simply do a print of pi directly. So if you go ahead and write the code, then you can still get pi back twice. So that's how you can do direct import, or you can just import the module itself and then use a dot extension to get access to its variables and the different functions that it comes with. So yeah, that's basically it. And you can also import, if you want to import everything from a module, you can just also do that. So you can just simply say, let me just delete let me just delete everything. I can just say from math import, and then just use the asterisk. What this simply means that you import everything from the math module. So if I say pi, pi has been imported just by using the asterisk, right? So you can just go ahead and write it, say pi, it works, right? So you can just say from let me just use the from, okay, sorry, I'll just say from the greeting, from greeting module import import everything. So I can just say import everything. So I can simply go ahead and simply do a print of name, just like that. So if I go ahead and write the code again, now you can get the name because it has been imported using the asterisk operator. So good. So we can also import things by using custom names. So you can say from math import, or let me just do this way. Say import the math as math. You can give it a name, right? So math, you can give it any name you want, math module. So now you can use the math module by using the custom name that we gave it ourselves. So we're importing it as this. So whenever you want to use this math module, we use this method to get. So you can just say print math underscore module dot pi. You see, it still works. So if I go ahead and write pi again, it still works. So that's how you can import things, giving them your same name. This name right here could be anything that you want. Okay. So if you get into machine learning, you will start doing things like import pandas speedy. So that's part of machine learning. If you get in there, you come across all these libraries and stuff like that. It's just really cool. Okay, so I hope you guys are learning from all this stuff. So you can do a lot of stuff with it. So you can also say you can say from math import pi as my pi. So you can also give it a custom name like that, and you can just go in here and just simply do a print of my pi. So print my pi, just like that. And if you run it again, you get back the pi function. So these are the different ways you can import modules in Python. So I hope you guys are actually learning a lot from this. So yeah, one of the things that sometimes you have a module, right? So how can you note all the functions and the methods that this module comes with? So you can just simply do a print, and you can use the key dir function, which is just a built-in function, and you can simply pass in the name of that module. So let's import the greeting module, and let's find all the functions and variables that are within that specific module. So I'm going to say from greeting, right? I'm going to go ahead and import look, let's just say import greeting. So let's just go say import greeting, just like that. So once I go ahead, I have greeting, I can pass in greeting module right here. So once this is done, I can just go ahead, clear this, and then simply run this again. So you can see now, we can see these are all that comes with Python creates by default for all Python modules. So now what we're interested in is the last two right here. So the last two are greeting, and greeting is a function that we have inside of our module. So this function right here, you can also see the name, and the name is just the name of this variable that we have. So just by using the dir and then passing in the name of the module is going to return to you all the possible functions and methods that you can use. Okay, good. So now you can simply do module, and then you can simply do, let's try to do print greeting module dot underscore name underscore score, and that's something that comes in here. So you can see it right here. So you can just run this function, and what it simply does is returns to us the name of this module, and the name of the module, is the greeting module. So good. We can get a lot of stuff from there just by looking at this. You can see it has cache built-ins, all this. You can access them and try to work around with them. But for now, what's mostly interesting is just the functions that come with this. The name also used whenever you go into web development. You'll see us using this a lot. But yeah, that's basically it. So we can also go ahead and try to get a help from this. So let's say print, and then say help of what, sorry, this is help, and then the help of greeting. So what this simply does, returns you a help which basically gives you instructions on the different stuff. So you can see you have its name, and it's from the greeting module. You also have a function, which is this function returns none, right? So you can see the power of type hints even tells us the return, and you can see all the different stuff. So you can see the name is of type str, and that's true because we use type hint, so you get all access to all that information. So yeah, that's really great. That's really great, and how you can work with the different stuff with that. So if you use the help, you can get the help information. Now you can see this help information is not even that detailed. So how do you make sure that this is actually even detailed, more detailed? And you can go in here and you can use something called doc strings in Python. So you can create variables with three quotes just like this, and in here you can just go ahead and write in our own doc strings. So you can say this this is a greeting function we defined, just like that. So this is a greeting function we defined. So if I call, I go in here and then I call the help, it's going to return to me this little documentation. So if I go ahead and run the code again, now you can even go see that little documentation, which is this right here. This is a greeting function we defined, and right then that's all included in documentation. So these are called doc strings in Python, and they're really whenever you're working with Python, building bigger libraries, just try to like write short documentation of what each function does, right? So when people are trying to use a library, they can simply call the help and then simply get the little doc string documentation that your functions come with. So just giving them, like, this can be like 5 lines or 6 lines explaining what the function does, right? So that's just a good practice to have when we're trying to build large scale applications, because you might not be the only one working on that thing. So other people will also need to work on it or need to use your library or whatever module you're creating. So just try to keep it documented and give it a bit of explanation to each function and what it does. And that's what the purpose of doc strings are for in Python. Yeah, so that's all for this video, and I hope it made sense to you and you guys have a clear understanding of how to use modules in Python. So I will use modules a lot, and you come across them a lot in Python. So yeah, you can even pause the video, go back and watch things just to make sure you have a clear understanding of this, because if you start building projects in Python, you'll be working modules a lot. So yeah, that's for this video. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Keep safe.